Welcome to the 2023 Mastercam Rollouts. My name is Patrick with the support team at Prototech Engineering. So with 2023, we're going to be doing on-site rollouts again, and we're also going to have this option as a video presentation. So if you can't attend in person, hopefully you can take in all my videos I'll make on 2023 this year. Now 2023 has had some big changes, and this section here is going to mainly focus on machine group setup. So if I were to say what's the biggest change in 2023, I would say it's definitely machine group setup is going to be the biggest notable change in 2023. So we're going to take a look at a short PowerPoint, and then we're going to get into a Mastercam file to see how all this works out. So let's go ahead to my PowerPoint. In 2023, the machine group setup is probably the biggest change that you're going to see. So let's see what the changes are here. So in 2023, the machine group setup is going to look completely different. You're not going to have your old standard options that you had before. As far as the layout, now all the options you did have will currently be here. They're just going to be laid out a little different. So as you can see, there's going to be a new setup dialog that pops up on the left, and all of your options will be in the left-hand side of this. Now 2022 to 2023, that's kind of what I meant by the differences. So the page on the left you're not going to have in 2023, but you're going to have all the options. So it's important to keep in mind that you didn't lose any functionality. You just changed up how it looks and added quite a bit of functionality that we'll take a look at. Work holding. So now we'll be able to do mainly all of our setup, mainly our main job setup, all in one page at the beginning. And kind of what I mean by that is now we can add work holding into this, which is kind of nice to do a full fixture stack up, and then we can define our stock and do everything kind of on one page now. So we'll take a peek at that. And let's go ahead and take a look at a Mastercam file. So we're going to start by dealing with this part here in this fixture stack up. So everything on the left hand side over here looks exactly the same. So you're going to access this stuff the same way. You still have all of your other options there as far as this page goes here. So you can still, define fixtures in this page too. So this all works the same as what you had before. Nothing has changed here. The main difference here is we're all going to be able to do it in this one setup page here. So I'm just going to go to the options of files, and we're going to start to look at this. Now right off the bat here, you're going to see that a machine pops up. This is the machine simulation machine that I currently have set. So the nice thing as we work through this is we're going to be able to define all of this out into different machines for this specific file, so we don't have to go back and change this constantly through each time we want to use something. So the first page here is going to be our machine, and if you hover over these, they'll open up kind of like what we're seeing here, and they'll show you the options in there. So our first one's machine. Now all of the information in here is going to be exactly the same as what you had before. As far as your group names, your output folders, any comments. If you want to change a machine, you can go to this open folder here, and this will browse you into your database to be able to have you change any machine that you want to update this current file with. So there's your option to change the current machine that's going to post out. As far as numeric control output, all of this is the same as you had before with program numbers, sequence numbers are all controlled here. So really what they did is they took all this information and tried to relay it out to make it a little more user-friendly going forward. As far as master model goes, so master model is going to be your finished part. And right now in 23, there's not a high use for this, but going forward there will be. Mastercam 2023 is a big transitional version to kind of get you using this machine group setup so we can fully utilize this in future versions of Mastercam. Now we can still use it, so what we have here is we have a white area showing your selection. You have a right click in here to remove in this case. I would also have three options here: add from a level, add from a file, or add from a selection. And then the red X removes all if I want to start over. So if I just want to start over, I click the red X, and now I can go and pick from a selection. I can go and pick my part and end selection, and it turns my part whatever color my model color is set here. So that is purple in this case, and my remainder color of what I didn't pick, it remains gray. And then below that is any engineering information maybe that you could fill in, maybe to help yourself out, help somebody referencing the file out. Really, however you want to utilize that, you can utilize that however you want. Now there's an isolate button sitting here. Now the only way to get isolate to work, if I click isolate, everything goes away. So if I uncheck it, if I go back and click the guard in this case, and then isolate it, it isolates everything other than the guard. So I could really just take a look at my master model, in this case, to look at it potentially. And then if I unisolate it, I can see it fully on my stack up here of fixturing. So it's kind of a way to preview it out, kind of stack everything out. And I believe in the future here we'll be able to go to model aware, stock aware, and fixture aware quite a bit more than what we're currently doing, and that's the reasoning for this new page. Stock setup. So stock setup is going to be a big change here. So once again, we have right click to unselect all or edit bounding box if we utilize the bounding box option. Now I do have three options here. I have bounding box, add from a file, or add from a selection, and then reset removes everything that we already did. So if I reset, it just cleans everything out. I have nothing selected here. If I want to go ahead and pick my part and put stock around my part, what I can do is I can pick any of these options. Now in this case here, I'm going to pick bounding box. The add from selection only allows you to pick a solid or a mesh. And then a file, you know, an STL, potentially a casting model or something like that. If you had that, would be a good option there. So if I go to bounding box in this case, I'm going to get into the bounding box dialog box that we've had previous. The same exact box. Now they did strip out some options. You can't do spherical and you can't do wrap, and you can't do auto for orientation. Otherwise, everything else works exactly the same as bounding box as you're used to before. If I go in here and do a selection, all shown would take everything on my current screen. Now that would bound everything tight, fixtures and all. Now I don't want that, so I'm just going to go ahead and manually select with this white arrow here, and I can pick my part and then selection. And you notice that my stock builds out from that selection, kind of like we're used to with bounding box. Now I would have the option here to change it from rectangular to cylindrical if I wanted to. My origin of my stock right now is coming from center. So what that means is I picked my part, it found center point, and it expanded out from there a tight bounding box. So if I wanted to change this to all negative stock, I could move my button to the top. All positive stock, I'd move my button to the bottom, and so on with the left and right. As far as size goes, I can go and I could update these values at any time. They came in bound tight, so I kind of have some non-nominal numbers in there, but I could always make them nominal numbers. Orientation, my current construction plane. Right now I'm in this top plane for my construction plane. I could go normal to a face, or I could manually set that with our dynamic gnomon, and that's where the stock would deviate out from there. One other thing I can do here is I can hover over his face, I can click on it, and I can drag this out if I want or move it in. And escape always gets you back, so you can do that to all faces of this stock. If you want to drag it out to something or add additional stock, that would be another option. And then the stuff below here, or the options below here, is create geometry, lines and arcs, corner points, center points, face center points, make my stock into a solid or make it into a mesh. Them are all options you can turn on, and you'll get that geometry built for you if you want. So many ways to change this. Kind of works right into the bounding box dialog box, which is really nice. Gives the end user a lot of say here. So I'm going to go ahead and green check. Other stuff that's built into here, the first one down here is a drop down. If you're looking to transform your stock plane, here's your option. You had this previous, it is kind of hid here. You just have to hit the drop down and it'll be sitting there. You can pick your new planes here, and you can pick where it's deviating from your origin. So if you need that, that's sitting there. Colors, obviously you can always pick your colors, change your colors with this button here. Show stock plane, I'm sorry. That'll pop up a plane so you can see the plane, so you can kind of easily visualize where that plane information is coming from or where it's deviating from. And then more engineering information is on the bottom here if you want to use that. I will come back to show wireframe entities here in a bit. It's easier if I come back to show you kind of what's going on there. Now that I have a bounding box in here, if you click on it, you can edit the bounding box also at this point, and it'll get you right back into the page for bounding box. So if you need to do any edits, that's another way to do that. Next option down here is going to be fixturing or work holding. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to delete all of these here. We're going to start over. So I have my part here on the screen with all my fixturing. Now fixturing once again does not have to be used, but if you want to stack this up maybe on your machine table or put a full assembly together, this is a nice option in here. So once again, I'll have a right click, add from level, add from file, add from selection. Same options are sitting right here. And the red X obviously removes all and lets me start over. So I'm just going to go and select from a selection here, and I'm just going to go and pick my fixturing that's currently on my screen here. And once again, if you had them color coded, you could go pick off of colors. Otherwise, I'm just going to pick my fixturing and end selection. And some of the nice things that are built into here are align to face. We could dynamic transform, and I can pick these individually, and then these are live. So I could move each individual feature if I wanted to. Otherwise, I could do like a control click or a shift click in here to select multiple to move at once. So that is a pretty darn nice option here. I can also group these too. So if I'd add a group, then I could have maybe a riser group. I could have a vice group. I could have a vice jaw group, and then they'd be in separate groups, kind of organizing them and making them easier to select out of there potentially. So keep in mind the alignments. There's a nice picture here for like a vice situation where you have your stock in there, but you have to push the saddle up to the stock. Now you can do it right here without doing it in an external operation after the setup. So this is kind of what I meant by why this is nice is we can do everything on the front end now instead of going back and doing multiple operations to get the same results. As far as isolate goes, if I just isolate right now with bolts selected, all I see is that bolt. If I grab all of these by like a shift click and isolate, then I'm just seeing that. If I uncheck isolate, my part comes back. So that's kind of how the isolate will work here. Also, same way as previous. I can also change the fixture color, remaining color, and I can show wireframe if there's any wireframe on the screen, which I don't have in this case. So that's our work holding. That's how it kind of works. Next page down here is tools. So they just added another form of or another spot to add tools. So I can go here and it gets me into my tool manager. Here's my current tools in my job, but if I wanted to grab out of a library on the bottom and add them to the top, it'll just pop them in this list here. Maybe that's good for people that use pre-stage tooling and stuff like that. Maybe they just dump it right into the job and then it'll be sitting there when they go to program. Just another spot to grab this. And then your feed calculations, your toolpath configurations are all sitting in here. So if you are familiar with them and use them, they're still here. You can just grab them off of this page. And as I said, we didn't lose any functionality. It's still the same. It's just laid out a little different. And then the last one here is going to be machine simulation. So you'll be able to go and pick your machine simulation that you want to use in this file. If you have impostability posts, we fully support them. And if you are using an impostability post, make sure you have use external post selected here. Now this is a secondary to the other spot under the machine tab where you used to set up your machine simulation. You can set it up all here now, or you can use the other method. The other method is still there to work the same. And you'll be able to, position your stock. Your tolerances will be here. If you're into accurate or simple threading, that switch is sitting here now. And any other potential options you're using with machine simulation will be sitting in this page. So you can fully set up a machine simulation for this file for every time you come back into it. You don't have to update anything. You can just go simulate and it'll show your correct machine using your right post this way. So once again, they just added these options to hopefully get all of your setup done in one page. I'm going to go ahead and green check out here. So my setup is done. Now let's say I need to edit something. You can always come back into here. You have Files, Tool Settings, Stock Setup. So before we get there, I'm going to go and I'm going to draw a rectangle on the screen. Now, not everybody works off of solid models every time. So maybe you just work off a wireframe, and I still want to set up my stock with wireframe. So I can go to back to my stock setup here, and I can remove that. And you'll notice that I don't have any wireframe on the screen. What I need to do is I need to come here and show wireframe entities. Anytime you have wireframe entities on the screen, there's going to be a preview setting, and you need to turn that on if you want to see it. Now with that on, now I can go back and now I can start to select again. So maybe I go back to a bounding box, manually select that. Shift click is a shortcut to select your full chain and end selection. Now you're not going to see a whole lot because it's a 2D wireframe, but if I had some Z depth here, maybe 2 inches, now that'll pop up, and now this is my stock setup here on this page. So that's how you can do wireframe entities with this new job setup. Same with this, show wireframe will show the wireframe if you want to pick that for potentially a fixture or something. In that case, you have the option to go and do that. So there's our new setup page. Hopefully you can go back and start to use this in 2023. Like I said, this is a big transition for the future to make the workflow that much better in Mastercam. And as always, thanks for watching our video. And any questions on Mastercam, make sure you give Prototech a call at 952-361-5598. Thank you.